and welcome to the Half Court Press Podcast. I am Jimmy Watkins, the Nebraska basketball beat writer for the Omaha World-Herald. He is Joel Lorenzi, the Creighton basketball beat writer.
You filling out a job application? You going to
This
put
is
out
how
the
you
whole...
introduce a podcast.
Bro.
Come on now. That's how you introduce a podcast. This is a action-packed episode. I am overwhelmed by the amount of topics we have. We have to go over Joel's trip to New York. We have to talk about exhibitions coming up this weekend. We got to talk about, there's a lot of NCAA tournament expansion talk that's happening. Our boss, Sam McEwen, texted me moments before we started recording this podcast, a question that relates to both of these basketball teams he wants us to get into. My mind's a little scrambled. We will start, of course, with the pressing matter at hand. I watched Joel's dog for 3 days while he was in New York.
I can't tell if he did a good job or not.
I mean, the dog is still there.
But the dog is like...
What's the end goal?
When I look at Diesel is my dog's name. We can't just keep calling him the dog, first off. Diesel, when I look at Diesel, as soon as I get in the car, it's like there's an emptiness to him that wasn't there when I dropped him off. I don't know. He's not reacting to me the same.
Maybe he likes me.
Maybe he likes Jimmy more than me.
All right, so this is a pit bull, right? And this
pit
dog
bull
is
an American bulldog. You would know that.
Whatever.
You own it.
Sorry, you didn't give me the breeding papers before when I grabbed him, but... I will say this dog definitely embodies the, like, pit bulls aren't what you think they are. Like, he will come up to you at any given moment, just put his chin in your lap, and
he's just like, soft is what Jimmy's trying to say.
He's loving.
If a robber walked into your home with Diesel there, he's probably helping the robber rob you, frankly.
I don't know. I feel like there is a protective streak in him, but he's very loving. He's very loving. I think he just likes me. I think he just likes everybody. He's a very loving pup. Yeah. My full review, I think I did great. I fed him on time. I took him out 3, sometimes 4 times a day because Joel told me before he left, don't give him too much water because then you'll have to keep saying, I'm not trying to, this man, like when I would take him out sometimes, we would just go, like, I'd let him sprint for a couple blocks and try to keep up with him. My man would come back, like drool, like hanging over his nose. Bro, this dog drools so much. So I had to keep pouring him some more water. I wasn't going to do him like that.
Yeah. I don't run as much as Jimmy does.
I don't run at all. I just like when the dog was, he's got so much energy. You got to tire him out, right?
Yeah.
So the one mishap we did have was yesterday when I was on my way. I live in an apartment complex, and he did low-key pee on someone's front door in the apartment complex. There was like a pumpkin outside the door. He was sniffing around. I didn't think much of it, and he lifted that leg. I was like, oh shit. He probably got a quarter stream out on this person's door, and there's like a little trail. Which is a lot, frankly, right.
Because he goes for a long time.
For sure.
But I will say, there is just something he does in new places. He really don't. I mean, sometimes it's like he doesn't got no house training. When really, when you get him in the house, it's different. But
to get out of your apartment is less convoluted to get out of mine. There's like 2 doors. So I think he was thinking, okay, I'm outside now. This is where I go to the bathroom, like immediately. He took like the first day I took him out, he took 1 step outside the front door and just started going on the sidewalk, which was fine. But I think that's kind of what it is. He just was used to a certain pattern of, okay, I walk this far, then I pee. And you know what? It happens. If any of my landlords are listening to this, first of all, get a life. Second of all, you can't prove anything. I don't have the dog anymore.
I'm about to text them now that you said that.
Okay, Joel, how was New York? Talk to us.
New York was lovely, man. I love New York. Well, I wish nothing against Queens. Like, that's usually where I am when I go to New York because I got people out there. I like Queens a lot. I wish I would have been in the city, though. Mm-hmm. Like, that would have been great. Just because the first day, like, when I got there, I landed in Newark, which was shitty. I mean, Newark's just not a great place. Traveling from Newark to one of the boroughs is probably even worse, especially for somebody who's, like, not familiar with the city and the public transit. Like, it was hell. Like, it took me a while. Thankfully, I didn't have any pressure to get back to the hotel or nothing, so I was just doing shit and just staring blankly at my Google Maps. But, like, it was rough.
Your Mark staring at your Google Maps, you get robbed. Such a Nebraskan.
Okay, not stare. Stupid ass. Anyway, so it was rough. So, but after that, it was great. I mean, great food. I love how you could just be an individual in New York because nobody cares about anybody else and what they got going on.
So crowded. Like, it's just so many people.
Yeah, and it's dope because I was telling Z before we started recording, like, that night I got there, I almost said Friday night because it feels like that was my weekend being in New York. But today's Wednesday, which is weird as hell.
It's gonna mess up your week. All week.
But the first night I was there, Monday night, was just walking around Queens and got a bite to eat, got some pizza and a beef patty in the same place, which is legendary. Omaha could never. And
not just beef patty with cheese in it, right?
Beef patty with cheese.
Nice.
It was a delicate process. Like it was lovely. And I'm just walking down the street eating it, and nobody cares. You could be sloppy, you could have this shit all on your face because it's New York, man. And I can't wait to go back. I mean, Madison Square Garden, like I'd never been, and just being in there, like I tried to really paint the picture with my story, and I don't know if I even had enough words to do so. Like it was just. Like, I even got better flicks. I posted a really bad flick on my Twitter with some dude even photobombing with his big-ass hat in front of me. But, like, Madison Square Garden, bro. And they had the Jumbotron, like, close to the floor. So, like, you could just see the whole ceiling. You got a great view of all the jerseys and the rafters. Like, it's insane. It's everything they say it is.
I love New York. I love Madison Square Garden. I've never been inside. I remember, like, for my 9th grade, like, we had a class trip in 9th grade. If you were in, like, honors social studies or whatever, you get to go on this class trip. Sidebar, because of that, there were a lot of dumbass kids in honors social studies trying to get onto that class trip. Neither here nor there, but just needs to be said. And we just stood outside Madison Square Garden. It's just like, whoa. Like, for basketball people, that's just, like, it's like a hallowed ground. It's a big deal. Let's talk about what happened inside those hollowed walls of Madison Square Garden. Creighton had a bigger crowd. Saw a picture from SID Rob Anderson.
Yep.
There was quite the throng of media people at the table. They had Mac, Nemhard, Kaluma, and Kalkbrenner. Talk me through your media day strategy. Like, how did you formulate what kind of questions you wanted to ask, what kind of stories you wanted to write? What did you get out of that experience?
Yeah, sure. And for one, I initially thought, those 3 players was like, oh, they brought out the whole cavalry. Like, that's a big deal based on kind of what Jimmy was telling me about Big Ten media days and what to expect. And then Providence brings like half their team to media days.
I don't understand that inclination. Michigan State did the same thing.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's one of those things where, like, it's like if you've ever written a preps feature, you'll always find a high school coach who's like, well, I don't want to just highlight one kid. Can you just write about all 11 starters on my defense? Like, no, bro, they're not that interesting. This one person is interesting.
Facts.
It's like that kind of deal.
I don't know Providence deal if they got bad access over there or what. I mean, I gotta imagine if they had bad access, they wouldn't bring in 6 players there. I don't know. I don't know what the point was. But my strategy, I guess, was really, I mean, frankly, if you've listened to us and read my work all summer since I've got here, I've been around the team quite a bit. Even on media day that they had here a few weeks ago, it was like, this is probably nothing that I haven't already heard. I mean, that day was cool because you get to sit down one-on-one with some of the players instead of just getting on the phone with them or something. And frankly, this was like a similar opportunity. I mean, as many people as you saw at that table, like, they're all asking the same question. I mean, it's the same question that people are coming around and asking, and it's a reasonable question, right? How are you handling the expectations? What's it like to be such a hype team, number 9, all that jazz, and it's like they've heard it all. And so I tried to kind of get outside the box. I had never really had a conversation with Kalkbrenner yet. I've talked to Nemhard obviously a lot because I did a story on him. I did a one-on-one with Kaluma at Media Day, but I hadn't really talked to Kalkbrenner, and there was some pretty interesting news that dropped right before I got to talk to him, so it was just convenient asking him about Sanogo and
so that's Adama Sanogo from UConn being picked as the Big East preseason player of the year. That is what you're referring to.
He gave me a pretty good quote that I think Creighton Twitter enjoyed. But yeah, the strategy was just to kind of ask questions that maybe they hadn't been asked yet. Maybe ask really specific stories that might not make it into a story this week, but maybe would make sense down the line. And even like particular stuff like talking to Kalkbrenner about the short roll and his progression there and what it could mean for this team and stuff like that. asking them stuff that still makes sense to ask them, not just like having a conversation off to the side type deal, and then still asking them, some of the stuff based on the material that the polls gave us, because there was a lot to talk about with that, obviously. And at a certain point, you get tired of asking even with the polls, like, oh, how's it feel to be number 9, this and that, because frankly, I would like to sit in front of the player in this country who, after their team is named a top 10 team, is actually gonna be like, yeah, man, we top 10. You're like, this is fire. Like, like they're not gonna do that. They got to play that role, right? Where they're like, it's cool, but it means nothing. Like, and frankly, for Creighton, it means everything. They won't tell you that, but they've obviously never been ranked
on the socials
and
at social media, as I've said before, social media is not real life, but on the socials, they were pumping that out.
Yeah.
Highest preseason ranking in school history. Like, that's juice.
Yeah.
Real juice behind that.
And obviously, that's like their social team and whatnot. It's not the players, for the people who don't understand the difference.
Players feel that too, though, even though outwardly,
I agree. Yeah, I agree. I don't know if they're putting number 9 exclamation points, but yeah, they can't act oblivious to it. Even Trey, I think, put on his story, like, we'll be hired at number 9 or something like that. So
he did, and all these guys are like, particularly Trey. I still follow these guys on Instagram because of the March Madness run last year. Trey reposts like every time his name comes up in one of those, it's like top backcourts in the country, or like teams that could surprise. Like, so he's very internet savvy.
And they don't deny it. Like, I even when I was talking to Kluma and Trey at Media Day, I'm like, you see this stuff. Like, I'll be seeing your story. Like, you see this stuff, and they're not gonna lie. So it's just they have to process, and depending on who's asking them, they have to process how much they're gonna let you know about whether they care or not. And frankly, I think Trey is one of the people who cares the most, like you said. And I don't think there might not be a player that cares more than Baylor Scheinman. I mean, Baylor Scheinman, like, clearly searches his name up every day on Twitter.
Well, this is new ground for him. He's never had this bright of a spotlight on him.
Yeah, I'm not mad at it. I mean, I'd probably be doing the same as a player, but
I would not. I would recommend against it. It's bad for your mental health. Go on.
Probably, but you don't know until you're there.
I'm not trying. If I mute if you come at me on Twitter saying some dumb shit, I mute you. We're never gonna see you again.
I don't know. I'll probably be the type to poke my chest out.
I do it. So
I'll probably be the type to coach you, because you got to think if you're a player like that, the fan base is behind you. If you tell dude, hey, if you tell him something crazy, give him a clap back, whatever, like, tell him go kick rocks, beat it. Like,
at the same time, you're giving that person extra exposure. So you're just inviting. Yeah, I think if you do that, you're inviting more people to come at you. So it sounds like we talked about this last week. This was like, we can talk in the abstract about all this hype, and they got we have numbers to put next to it now. Number 9, highest preseason ranking in school history. All these preseason all
first
Big East, right. Picked first in the league. Kalkbrenner on the first team. Nembhard and Shireman and Kaluma getting I think Nembhard and Kaluma were second team, and Shireman was honorable mention. All that stuff.
Yeah.
This was their first personification of that. This is like, you see it in person. Max said something to the effect of, usually we're just sitting here talking to ourselves. Now they've got a crowd. How do you think they handled that? It sounds like you think they handled it pretty well.
Yeah, that's literally what he said. And frankly, it was interesting. I think they handled it as well as they could. They've actually done a pretty good job, I think, of showing a level of maturity I wasn't sure that they would have, especially from a group of mainly sophomores and
19, 20-year-old kids.
A junior and Kalkbrenner. They've been really mature through this whole process, and I think they handled answering the same question over and over better than I probably would have. I mean, after a certain point, I'm gonna get pissed. I'm gonna be like, yo, like, come on. But they answered it every time with the same energy, and it was interesting during those, at least while I was standing there, because I mean, I felt like I asked a lot of questions, so I'm not asking them that question over and over. But it was kind of funny to see the cycle of people that walked up to even Mac, because like at a certain point I'm just talking to the players, but I'm in my peripheral seeing people walk up to Mac and kind of ask the same question over and over. And at a certain point I'm ready to talk to Mac, so I like kind of laughed because dude asked the question in the most I think the most like emphatic way to ask the question that they keep asking. I told him, like, I gotta laugh because, like, they keep asking you this, like, does it ever get tired? And they were like, no, I mean, this is what it's about. I mean, you can't be named number 9 in the country and not expect that, especially if you're not a Duke or something like that. Like, they had to know this was coming. I mean, they wish for this, right? Like,
it comes with the territory.
Yeah. So, and then even Nembhard said something along those lines, like we're not ducking expectations. Like, this is what you play college basketball for.
Two Kalkbrenner observations. Well, one Kalkbrenner observation, and then I'm going to ask you a nerdy thing about the short roll.
Sure.
He was kind of all the questions that they fielded about preseason hype, whatever. I thought his answer about the Sanogo thing, which is an easy question to bat away. How do you feel about this person getting picked over you for preseason player of the year? His answer, he did sort of do like it doesn't mean anything, but then at the end he slips in and we'll see. Yeah. We'll see what happens when we play them. That to me, like Kalkbrenner, if people have ever I talked to him one-on-one for 5-10 minutes last year for a story I did on him before the tournament, and then if you just watch his press conferences, he's kind of like a shy, introverted kid. I think is an accurate assessment. But that kind of you put the X-ray over his heart, he's got the pup.
Yeah,
he's got that. I don't know, what is it? The tenacity, like that ferocious competitiveness. Yeah, he doesn't admit that all the time, but you can see it's in him, right? Yeah. I just thought that was interesting. And okay, so the short roll thing.
Well, no, I want to add to the
okay. Go ahead.
You made.
Go ahead.
The quote was great, and frankly, I think, he has to. There's a certain self-awareness there. Like, he probably walked into it thinking that it would be him, and he probably got a bunch of reasons to think so. I mean, plenty of people have pointed. Even it's not even just a thing among. If you were somebody who was really had tunnel vision and only kept up with Creighton basketball, that's a thought that's been perpetuated beyond this fan base, right? This is something national media has been picking up on. People really believe Kalkbrenner could be the best player in this league this year, and there is a faction that think it'll be Sanogo, and so that obviously showed in the polls. And so I think he's carrying that mindset into it, and just gave a great quote. And even he did something that I thought was even more different than people usually do when talking about award races like that. He even said I'm on a team with so many other great guys, that might even lower my chances too. He even said that, and I was I don't think I've ever heard a player talk about their chances and really talk about the
preseason
situation.
Award. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. I also think I think it's an aesthetics thing. Sanogo is a brick shit house. He's built crazy. Kalkbrenner's kind of slender, and Sanogo, the way they use him, just a higher usage guy, right? So I think those two are factors. You were writing about the short roll, how Kalkbrenner understands that that's a big part of what he wants to improve on this season. Explain to people who don't know what that means, what a playmaking big out of the short roll is, and why it's useful for an offense, particularly like Creighton's.
So the short roll is just when you don't roll all the way to the rim. Maybe stop short. That's why they call it a short roll. So maybe it's typically around a free throw line. So elbow area free throw, just not as close to the rim. And so when you get a dude like Kalkbrenner to work on that, not only is he caught in less situations where maybe they send a double too quick under the rim and he gets caught in a tight spot, but he really gets to survey the floor. All 5 of these guys that are gonna be on the floor while he's there are gonna demand attention. I think you'll see some very interesting defenses being played against them. A lot of doubles are gonna come. It's obvious. So when you put him in a position, let me just even throw the most basic situation out there. Let's say he's setting a ball screen for a Trey Alexander. Let's say people want to go over on Trey Alexander this year instead of under. Either way. Let's say both the guy defending the screen and the guy defending Trey show attention on Trey.
They send 2 to the ball, yeah.
Yeah, they send 2 to the ball. Ryan Kalkbrenner stops at the elbow instead of going to the rim and maybe getting into a tight spot. Even still, he probably could make a play from around the rim, but he stops at the elbow, surveys the floor. He can, if he's at the elbow, I don't know. He talked about a floater. Maybe if he's a few feet in front of the elbow, even
might be a dribble.
Yeah,
might be a dribble there.
So maybe he could toss a floater. Maybe he shoots a mid range, or maybe depending on what he does there throughout the year, he draws a guy from the corner, from that ball side, and let's say Baylor Shireman's in that corner, and that's the man who helped was the dude guarding him. That's an easy play to make right there, and that's just one of the so many scenarios that just unfold out of the short roll.
It's just the key to the short roll is having the wherewithal, knowing where you are on the court. You might catch the ball with your back turned to wherever you're going to pass the ball. So it's just being able to catch the ball, having the vision to dissect what's happening in front of you, because that's the best at this in the NBA is obviously the Warriors, right? Because everyone sends to it the ball when Steph's around a pick and roll.
Yeah.
Usually it's him and Draymond basically made. This is why they won. They beat the Cavs in the 2015 finals. The Cavs kept trapping Steph pick and rolls. They ended up doing short roll with Draymond, 2 on Steph. That leaves the Warriors offense with a 4-on-3, and Draymond either attacks the rim and finishes or sprays to one of the other shooters they had. So that's why that's important, and it's I like that Kalkbrenner's already thinking that way about this kind of team.
Yeah.
Obviously, the coaches have talked to him about it.
And in the Warriors' case, even when they sent 2 to the ball and hit Draymond in their short roll, like Steph, the great thing about Steph is he relocates.
Going, yeah.
So I'm interested to see who on this team is really adept at relocating and respacing. It's probably something I should ask soon.
I like that.
And it'll just be interesting to see. And he actually mentioned Draymond as like I asked him like, who are you watching, and maybe try to pick up concepts out of the short roll and just get better at it. And he was like, obviously Draymond's probably the best at it. And I think I'm watching guys in that company like Draymond, Bam, Jokic, obviously like it's just he has a lot of material to watch. So it was interesting to see that.
The Lakers should be doing more of this. That's neither here nor there.
I mean, we're not talking Lakers basketball, dog. We
don't. I'm for a second. That's it.
I caught glimpses of the season where I was drafting the fantasy team, 6-man league. I think I did decent. I'll show you later.
Okay. 6-man league.
But it was short notice.
Okay.
Shut up. Anyway, and I caught glimpses, and it was hard to watch. So
it was. Okay. Your point. Okay. One more quick thing, then we'll transition to a couple other things you wrote this week. Your point about the question you may ask about, who's the guy who might be able to relocate. There's so much conversation about who's going to have the ball. Who's going to have the ball? It may be more pressing, like who's going to
move without the ball.
Like the off-ball movement is going to be more important. Like what do you do once you give it up? Like there's a lot of guys who are used to having the ball in their hands. They give it up. They just stand there, which can be, if you can shoot, that's fine. You can be a floor spacer, but it's a lot harder to guard when you're giving up and keep moving. Yeah. Just a thought that can add a lot to the offense.
And if I had to answer the question for myself, I like to think Baylor. That's why I think
Baylor can definitely do that.
I think when somebody asks me who might be the highest scorer or who has a chance to be the highest, like the leading scorer on the team, I said Baylor because not only is he really good on the ball, but he's probably almost as good off the ball, just with his shooting numbers, and maybe he's not the best mover in college basketball off the ball, but like he doesn't have to be. Like it's just he has gravity off the ball.
It's not even necessarily about speed, right? It's like
angles and whatnot,
and just like keep moving.
Yeah,
like guys aren't used to defending guys who are moving all the time like that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I also think Kaluma has a chance to be in there.
I think he could be another short roll guy too.
Yeah,
he'll be setting a lot of screens.
And this is why when I tell people Kaluma might be the most talented dude on the team. It goes. I mean, obviously, if you keep up with NBA draft, you're gonna know that's who has the most potential on the team, in pretty much everybody's opinion. But Kaluma, what I really love about Kaluma is he really understands off-ball movement. Like you saw some in the World Cup qualifiers. Like he'll give a dude a ball, he'll pick up the ball in the corner, right, and give it to the point guard to reset. And in that fraction, in that window, like usually the defender that's on Kaluma, after Kaluma passed it back, they're going to relax because he just gave the ball up. And that's when Kaluma goes. Like he just understands stuff like that.
And the overall point we're making here, the potential for like the interchangeability in this offense, the way different guys can be ball handlers or screeners or off-ball guys, like it's exciting. It's very exciting. 2 other stories you wrote this week. The Stoltzberg story I thought was interesting. We've been talking kind of a lot about he's this, really impressive freshman with a nice recruiting track record, and we're not really sure what his role is. What did you learn from that conversation with him this week?
Yeah, so that was from media day.
Right.
But he's very poised, very mature. I thought he's got, again, some stellar awareness, like just being able to, because like even the way I framed the story is I felt was the storyline. Like, dude is probably a better guard than his ranking would suggest, and I feel like some coaches caught wind of that, and he came here because he saw the guard development that Creighton has enjoyed and turned out, and with him, you got Ryan Nembhard, you got Trey Alexander, and you could probably call Schultzberg a combo, but like you probably want to run him at point. But either way, the point I'm making is there's just so many guards on this damn team. I mean, Ryan, Trey, and we're not talking about any guards. We're talking about really good guards. Ryan, Trey, Baylor, on the bench, Sharif, Farabello. Like, these are guys, even for the guys that aren't the best, like, they're older. They had college basketball under their belt. So he's in a tough spot. But he came into this knowing that and didn't care. And it feels like he's a guy who will stick around because of it. Most guys, if they incidentally fall into a situation like this and don't end up playing or whatever the case may be, even though he really has a chance to still get minutes, they probably enter the portal without even thinking twice. But it feels like he'll stick around. Even if some guys stay next year, it just feels like he really believes the impact is there for him, and even if it's a slower process than he would like, I think he just braced himself for that. I mean, it's more than I think most kids would have did. Another
situation where it would behoove him to, he's had the ball in his hands basically his entire high school career, right? Behoove him to figure out how to, maybe watch a little stuff film or Kyle Korver film for the Creighton heads, move without the ball, make yourself, increase that versatility. You can grow as a player without playing because you're trying to highlight other areas of your game because your role changes when you make a step up in a level, right? I think I think everything you said is right, and it's cool that particularly for a kid who like we come up on the LA basketball scene, like all this media attention that Creighton's getting is not new to him. LA basketball scene is like legit. So for him to approach it that way is kind of refreshing. Obviously, is early. He hasn't had any DMP CDs yet. We'll see how that continues as the season progresses. But he seems like he's going into it with the right mindset.
And it's funny you mentioned it. The LA scene is obviously great, and that he knows attention. It's funny because he quote tweeted the post from the World-Herald saying like "thank you for the article," which is usually you only see that from like high schoolers. But like it was funny to me to see that because. I don't know. Maybe.
I think he plays he plays for like a team that was a powerhouse in the Valley, which is maybe one of the lesser covered areas. But okay, anything else from me today? You wrote a column too. Do you want to touch on that?
It was really. I don't think it was any.
I'll say one thing about it. The point that you made about the difference in media attention between the Creighton men and Creighton women. Something we're still. I asked both years I've been to Big Ten Media Days. I've asked Amy, what the platform. Amy Williams, the Nebraska women's coach, what the platform means to them, and what can you accomplish at a media days for your program. I asked Fred that last year, and he just kind of like, I don't know, Jimmy. Like they don't even think about that because the attention's always there. I think because the coverage is more sparse, like we're making improvements as a basketball media, given the women's game the coverage it deserves, but. They have a better understanding of what that stuff means because it hasn't been there for so long. So I think that's a point that you made in that column, and I think that's an important one to point out. I think like it's a criticism of the conferences. You shouldn't have the opportunity to go in, talk to all the men's teams that you want to talk to, then clear out before because the men went first, right, and then the women went the second day. It shouldn't be that way. You should at Big Ten Media Days, they've gotten better at this. They have it on the same day. So if you're there to talk to Fran McCaffrey, you're going to also talk to Caitlin Clark. Like your editors are going to do that because why not?
It was all the same day, but it was separated by just lunch.
Okay.
And so the people just never came back.
So now that's on us then. Like you got to stick around.
Yeah.
You got to stick around. Let's talk about these exhibitions we got this weekend. Creighton's playing Iowa State. That's fire. That's going to be high-level basketball. Nebraska is playing Chadron State. Quick, hold on. I did a little Chadron Googling this morning. You want to learn a few things about Chadron, Nebraska?
Sure. Didn't expect to, but I'll take it.
It is. All right, my iCloud photos haven't been updated. It's fine. Chadron is the United States Forest Service headquarters of the Nebraska and Samuel R. McKelvey National Forests, and a bunch of other stuff. There's also Chadron, Nebraska features the Museum of the Fur Trade, and is the site of the American Fur Company's former Bordeaux training post. I don't really know what any of that means, but that's just a little scouting report on Chadron, Nebraska. We've been talking about Creighton the entire time. I'll take the Nebraska. Like, what are we looking for from this scrimmage? It's a mirror game. Like, it's a Division II team. You should stomp them. Let's start there. Stomp them. If you're a Big Ten team, you're a serious Big Ten team, stomp them. Second thing, all the things you've been saying in the offseason, this is, again, a team you should beat easily. You should be able to do everything that you want to do, that you say you're going to do, or at least show signs of doing it. So you say, Nebraska, Fred Hoiberg says they're going to be a better offensive rebounding team. They're going to put more of an emphasis on it. You're bigger than this team. Go get it. Go get the ball. You got better athletes. You got bigger athletes. Rebound your own misses. This is a team that should be able to execute a game plan better. Let's see it. Let's see these guys move the ball crisply. Let's see them execute this offense to a T. Whatever shot you want to get against this team, you should be able to get. So let's see that. And then defensively, they want to pressure guys. They want forced turnovers. They want to be pests. This should be a miserable experience for Chadron State basketball. That's what it should be.
Yeah.
That's all I got. Yeah. Creighton, Iowa State. What are you looking for?
Not sure yet. I think really just, I guess we'll look at the score, even though it might not be indicative of what actually happens. But I'm really looking at the top performers, seeing who played, especially.
Mm-hmm. They're going to play, I would guess, because it's an exhibition, they're going to play a lot of guys.
Yeah.
That goes for both teams.
Seeing who played, how much they played, seeing who, the top few scorers were, obviously. And just seeing, I don't know if we'll even get the chance to go this in depth, but seeing where these dudes got their buckets from, I guess how many threes they end up getting, what they shot from three, I think it's probably something people will look at and pay attention to. So,
early look at the rotations. That's a good point. I think it's these moments are, I don't want to say crucial because it's such a small sample size, but we might get the best sample size that we're going to get out of these younger players who aren't going to play, like a Stoltzberg. For Nebraska, that might be like a Denham Dawson. I don't know how much we're going to. We may well see Denham Dawson get rotation minutes during the regular season. If I wrote in my position preview this week that if Denham Dawson's jumper improves or someone else's regresses or the perimeter defense isn't where it needs to be, I could see him carving out a role. But if guys that I think the coaching staff right now are thinking maybe those are redshirt guys, this is the best look we're going to get at those guys all year long. So that's another thing that I'm looking forward to, and just seeing it. For Creighton, it's another data point that in a long list of data points that you kind of have seen before. You're going to be able to see okay, how's Ryan Nembhard looking back? Coming back from the injury. What has Trey added to his game? Does the jump shot look any different? That sort of stuff. From the Nebraska side of things, it's a brand new group essentially. Yes, CJ's back. Yes, Derek's back, but the primary creators are different. The offense, I think, is going to look a little bit different. Fred said they're going to run more of the stuff that he ran with the Bulls teams that had after Wade and Rondo, like the Markkanen-led teams, where they were really good for 6 weeks and then they tanked, right? That kind of stuff. We're going to see we're actually last year. Fred said we made a big jump into we're going to run more stuff through Derek Walker. Derek Walker's usage rate pretty much stayed the same because the guards were who they were. I think we're going to see more. What can Derek Walker do as a playmaker that you're going to be counting on? Wilhelm Breidenbach, who I'm writing a story about. I think it's going to run next week. Coming back from the ACL, a lot was made about Bryce last year. He's the highest rated recruit in school history. Oh my God, Wilhelm's a third. That dude is a crucial piece for this program going forward, a crucial piece for this season. They want to run a bunch of two big lineups. You need one of those guys to be able to shoot. He, in theory, is supposed to do that. He didn't do that last year. So how does he look movement-wise? How does he, he had problems with this guy, Joel. committed, and he wasn't playing a ton. So this is part of this is he would get in foul trouble in small stints, and it blows up the per 40 numbers. 8.5 fouls per 40 minutes he was committing. You got to rein that in because he's agile enough to be able to go over on screens and hedge and recover. That's what they were having him do last year. Let's see you do that without flailing so much and hitting guys. That's an important, because if you want, again, I really view him as a super key piece to this team going forward. Needs you on the court. All that stuff is worth watching. Again, it's Chadron State. It should all go exactly as according to plan. Maybe some of these notes are more for next week against Colorado, but all that stuff I'm paying attention to this weekend. Anything else? We move on? Next thing is, I think we got 2 more things. The NCAA tournament expansion. I think we got to talk about it at this point. I don't know. I actually kind of think it's going to happen, which kind of makes me sad. I don't know what exactly we would expand to. I think I can't remember who it was. This is going to be a bad, nut graph of a explanation. But the expansion model that I like the most, I think it's 80 or 90. Basically the model would look like all these bubble teams. You got auto bids for the conference champs. If you're ranked, you're in, and then a bunch of these other teams. Maybe if you're in, if you win your regular season conference title, but your resume wasn't enough, or you didn't win your tournament title, or you're an at-large, or you're one of these Syracuse is a perpetual high major bubble team, right? Those teams, it's just an extra week of the first 4, except it's the first 20, 25. And then you just play the tournament again. I personally think that the NCAA tournament is for hoop heads is the NFL to the rest of the world. So the NFL added a regular season game a couple years ago. They added a playoff team, and everyone's like, blah, blah, blah. We were going to watch the shit out of all of those games. If they expand the tournament and they make all these extra playing games, we're all going to bitch and moan about it. And then we're going to be locked in because it's high leverage basketball, and we're obsessed with that stuff. We're obsessed with it. People watch the first 4. The first 4 games are bad. The teams in those, you don't get in those games by being a good team.
But how much can they get away with this, dog? First
high leverage
4
basketball
is crazy,
is high
bro.
leverage
First
basketball.
25 is an insane.
I'm watching.
It's lunacy, bro.
I'm telling you, I'm watching. And here's the other thing: more teams. So more fans of those teams are going to be locked in.
You sound like a mid-major coach.
I'm not saying. I'm just rationalizing it. I don't want it. I think the tournament should stay how it is. I'm saying if we're going to do it, that's the model I like, and I am always in favor of watching more high leverage basketball.
There's no best concept for this expansion idea. It can't happen. I mean, this sport can't be so money hungry that they. And what's crazy is
anyone could be so money hungry.
Well, of course, but they shouldn't be if they want to go to heaven. But. I think the quote we were talking about in the car when you picked me up was Dennis Gates was the
Mizzou coach.
Not only I'm not gonna shout out Mizzou, but
Dom Chattel is weeping right now, weeping.
Hey, but shout out Dennis Gates because he went to Whitney Young. I went to Whitney Young.
Okay. Shout out the high school.
I'm not that fond of Whitney Young.
You didn't choose to go to high school. You chose to go to college.
I did. Well, I did choose to go to Whitney Young. I had my options.
Okay, my bad.
Yeah, come on now.
I didn't know.
And Whitney Young was a tough school to get into. Don't play me like that, dog. But
I don't know high schools like that. I just lived in a neighborhood, and they're like, all right, you go here. I'm like, all right, sweet.
Well, it can work like that. We're not going to get into that. But shout out Dennis Gates. So I did go to Whitney Young. I'm not that fond of Whitney Young.
Shout out Dennis Gates, but you're about to shit on Dennis Gates. Are you not?
No, I like him as a coach and a recruiter, and he did a good job at Cleveland State.
Who he is as a coach, but just
But the quote he made was insane. Bro said not only is he a fan of it, he thinks they should double the field, which is insane because now you're looking at a lot of nasty basketball. And really, I saw Jeff Goodman cooking basically every coach who's supporting it, and probably rightfully so. And basically, he's saying stuff along the lines of the only people who are encouraging this are coaches, and not just coaches, but coaches more specifically that coach losing programs like Mizzou has been.
Yeah.
So it's just some nasty advocation coming through the woodworks, and it would be for nasty basketball. So
couple things, plenty of nasty basketball happening in the NCAA tournament every year. We watch it.
So why add
we
to
watch it? We watch it because it's close and it's high leverage, and high leverage basketball is like crack. I can't get enough of it. Second thing, you're absolutely right. The coaches who are pleading for this are exactly they're the coaches who who aren't going to the NCAA tournament under the current prism often enough. They're trying to move the goalposts for success so they can hang some BS banners. It's like there's an open joke in NBA media right now about if the Kings finish the 10 seed this year and they make the play-in tournament, the Kings are going to come out and say they're going to release a press release that said our playoff drought, which is the longest professional playoff drought in all sports, it's over, even if they lose in the first play-in game, which is not the playoffs. That would be happening. So it's not just coaches, it's ADs, it's all these athletic administrators who are trying to move the goalposts for success and say, oh, look at what we did. We made the NCAA tournament. And in the process, they would be devaluing what that accomplishment actually means.
Yeah. And you're taking away, like, at that point, dog, like, what's the point of the regular season? What weight do those games have?
Auto bids.
What's the weight of the actual conference tournament at that point?
Auto bids. You don't have to go through all the first four nonsense. That's what it would be.
It makes...
I hate it, too. I think we should prepare for it. I think it's going to happen. The playoff is expanding. Everything. We live in a participation trophy culture. It's going to.
But it's definitely not
across sports.
If it has to happen,
not double.
Hell no, not double. Hell no, not 80 teams. I think closer to maybe 70. Like you start slow. Please start slow. So.
All right. Last thing. Sam texted me a question before this.
Sam doesn't text me questions.
I'll read it verbatim. Well, we were already having a conversation. I know him better. I'll tell him that. I'll tell him that you said
Sam.
that. I'll tell him that you said that. You'll get a question next week. Okay, here's my question for the podcast. How many players deep on Creighton's roster do you get before you hit the best player on Nebraska's roster? He posited an entire starting five. Joel?
Easily
definitely the entire starting five, but yeah. How far beyond that do we go if we go?
Silliness it is to pose that question.
Is like who do you think the sixth man's going to be? Sharif?
Yeah, but I think that's more. I don't think that means he's the most talented on the bench. Right. I just think it's
okay. So who do you think is the most talented on the bench then?
I don't want to get hate. No.
Oh my goodness, this man is scared to
shut up, dog.
Throw a take out there. This is embarrassing.
The most talented. Obviously, we don't.
Here come every couch and caveat you've ever heard.
Look, dude, a lot of these dudes on the bench haven't even played a game yet.
That's true.
Like, we're looking at Fred King, we're looking at Schultzberg, we're looking at Mason Miller. I have not played a game for them. No. I want to say Mason Miller, right, because of the way they talk about him in terms of his vertical leap, the strap he has. But I haven't seen him in a game, like, so I can't really tell you. It feels like he's the most talented. I mean, he was a top 80 recruit. Yeah. So,
I actually think the starting five is where it stops. Like maybe Mason Miller. Maybe Mason Miller has like a higher ceiling than a lot of these Nebraska guys. I mean, Mason Miller definitely has a higher ceiling than Derek Walker. Derek Walker hits his head on the ceiling that he's created for himself every single day. He gets the most out of his talent, and he's 24, 25 years old, so he is what he is at this point. But I think like you said, there's just too much. Like there's a lot of specialists on the bench, and there's a lot of unproven young guys on the bench, and so I think that a lot of the guys who sit the bench on Creighton, a few who don't play, would be in Nebraska's rotation.
Yeah.
Not sure they'd be starting.
Sure.
I don't know if they'd be starting.
And this is the thing. This is the point I'll make. Because if Mason's the most talented on the bench, I don't think I could put Mason, who's going to be an off-ball guy. Mm-hmm. I don't think I could call him better, especially since he hasn't played a game. I don't think I could call him better yet as Sam Griesel, who's going to be setting the table for a Big Ten team.
Like if Mac called up Fred and said, hey, I'll give you Mason Miller for Sam Griesel for this year only, Fred would hang up and laugh. He would. That's just how that would go.
Yeah.
So it's not a perfect...
And there aren't too many things that Fred would hang up and laugh about.
I think Fred, first of all, Fred would get excited. He's back in his GM bag, back in his Timberwolves days. He would love that. He'd like, all right, I'll listen to you, Mac. How many picks you throwing at me? How many future recruits? How many commits that you secure are coming my way after that? But it's a fun little exercise. All right, that's the podcast for this week. I'm Jimmy Watkins. He's Joel Lorenzi. Keep tuned to everything we do at the Omaha World-Herald and omaha.com.